I better gulp this down because Sarita said I've got to do a tight 10-minute set. Yeah, so as you heard, it's my birthday. And what can be better than doing something you love in a place that serves great beer on your birthday? Absolutely fantastic. I'm 71. You can say good, oh, you don't look it. But I've only been doing comedy for a little while, and so I can still remember, about 2 or 3 years, so I can still remember the early days, and it wasn't always successful. Now you've just seen Sarita doing crowd work. When I first saw her, she did some amazing crowd work, asking people about their sexuality. And I thought, wow, I could do that. It was a bloody disaster. I probably shouldn't have done it on the bus. Anyone in here being divorced?
Yeah!
What's the worst thing about being divorced?
I can't think of one thing.
Fleeced.
Oh. My ex-wife has my house.
Yeah, but you're quite happy and smiley about it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Anyone else being divorced?
Yeah, the arrest.
Yeah, what's the worst thing about being divorced?
Being fleeced.
Who?
Fleeced.
Fleeced?
Money. Fleeced.
Ah, okay, yeah. Not sort of, not having a person to share your life with, or...
Oh no, I found this one.
You found someone else.
No overlap.
No overlap, yeah. Anyone else want to pitch in with what's bad about doing it? Because people seem to like being divorced. Anyone else not like being divorced? No, you're all happy being divorced. For me, the worst part about being divorced was having to change the duvet cover myself. I bloody hate it. And people would come up with all these suggestions about these crazy ways of doing it. And it always ended up the same way. Yeah, you've heard, haven't you? It always ended up the same way, with me shouting out for help because I was stuck inside the bloody thing. And then someone suggested the burrito method. It's a real thing. You can watch a video on YouTube called the burrito method. I wish I'd watched that video because I wouldn't have then got salsa all over the bed. But I was really upset about getting divorced because I'm a sort of till death us do part guy, and I'd been faithful for 28 years, and so being divorced was quite a sort of shock for me, and I wasn't coping well with it. And after about 6 months, a friend said to me, he said, Edward, you've really got to get over it. Take small steps. Start off by changing your Facebook profile from divorced to single, because it doesn't define you. And then, when you're ready, start having a couple of dates. And I thought, well, that's a good idea. So I prepared for it. I thought I'd get some new bedding. I wouldn't be cheap, I wouldn't get Primark rubbish. So I went into Tesco. And then this lovely paisley design. And,
Hello.
It's lovely, isn't it? It was popping in. It's lovely paisley design, and it came in this pack. And it said, duvet cover, sheet, pillowcase, single. I thought, great, that defines me. Single, I'll have that. Got home and realised my mistake. I've got a double bed. Now that kind of thought made me think, well, do you know what, Ed, you really need to get a grip. You need to sort yourself out. So I analysed what went wrong with my marriage to try and work out why my marriage broke up. And I thought about it, and I suddenly realised I was just surplus to requirements. Because we had lots of pets, we had cats, we had dogs, we had chickens, we had horses. And when we got the latest addition to the menagerie, there was no room for me. It's not very good for your self-esteem being ousted by a goldfish. And then I kind of turned it around a bit and I thought, well, look at the positives there, look at the positives. And so I was grateful for being divorced because how else, I was grateful for being married because how else would I have all my faults pointed out to me? And I'm also grateful for being divorced because, okay, she got the house and she kept the dogs. But at least that list stopped growing. And I've got 2 lovely daughters, which is great. And I love my daughters. And I'm a mad keen runner. And my younger daughter started running, so I was really pleased with that. And then one day she said to me, she said, Dad, because that's what she calls me, Dad, I've entered an ultra marathon. I thought, wow, proud dad moment. Marathons aren't hard enough for my daughter. She enters ultra marathons. Wow. And she said, can you write me a training plan? So I went on that fitness app, Strava. Have you heard of Strava? And that's when I discovered she'd been doing CrossFit, the little shit. Those CrossFit people always banging on about the exercises they're doing, the reps they've done, the weight they've lifted. They're more boring than vegans. I've cut her out of my will. Yeah, if she's done all right for herself, she doesn't need my estate. It's a tappy old Volvo. Anyhow, back to the crowd work. The first time I tried it in a real comedy setting was a pub called the Cornish Arms in Pendoggett. The pure glamour of comedy is amazing, isn't it? And I thought I'd ask people, I'd ask the crowd, anyone got a strange nickname? And there was a front table full of women, and they all pointed at one of them. I thought, well, she's the one to ask, isn't she? And I said, well, yeah, what's your nickname? And she said, Vagina. I said, what? She said, Vagina. It's like vagina, but with a P. I said, what the hell's one of those? And bear in mind, I used to be a chartered accountant. I only had sex with one woman for 28 years, so I'm not very worldly wise. And she said, you know that some women have really big clitorises? Well, I didn't. And she said, well, if they're really big, they look like a mini penis. So vagina. And I was back thinking about my divorce again, because trying to think of a reply, I was doing a great impersonation of a goldfish. Yeah, that was something else that day. And you learn from those experiences. That's the great thing about a comic. You learn from those experiences. So I'm not going to ask you what your nickname is. All I'm going to ask is, anyone got a big clitoris? And that is definitely not something to ask on the bus. Yeah, so as well as not coping very well with the divorce, I've also not been very well. And I went to the doctor the other day, and I was diagnosed with one of those alphabeti soup type things, you know, like ADHD, PTSD, ME, MS. I got PIA, which stands for pain in the, used to be called piles. Yeah. And then I've also lactose intolerant, and I'm also gluten intolerant. It's nothing medical, it's just that being old, I'm intolerant of lots of things. For example, old people. You know, they're retired, they've got nothing to do all week, have they? So why the hell do they do the shopping at the weekend and get in everyone's way? There's an old lady in my Tesco's, she's got it down to fine art. She wanders along with a trolley out to the left.
Sorry, Ed.
Are you dying for the loo?
I've got to go. I tried not to.
Dodgy prostate, old age problem. Yeah, so she's wandering along with a trolley out to the left. So you think, well, I'll nip round the right-hand side, and she swings the trolley around that way. And you think, well, I'll nip back to the left. And just at that point, she puts her hand out to get something off the shelf. She could play defence for the Green Bay Packers. When they finally bring in assisted dying, she's the first one I'm going to help. Now, I do have a list. Here it is. And next on the list is my neighbour. Because he thinks being old is an excuse to be a racist. And I think his funeral will be quite ironic. Because the vicar will be there saying, earth to earth, dust to dust, ashes to ashes, and he'd be going back to where he came from. Yeah, think about it. Who else have got on the list? Oh yes, my cousin. He's a climate change denier. It's a bit like saying, you know, when a kid breaks a window and he lies to his parents. You know, we all know our generation fucked the planet up. There's no point going all Shaggy and saying it wasn't me. Yes. Do you know Shaggy? Wasn't me. Now, last time I was here, I read a poem, and I'd like to sort of start a tradition, and I'm going to read another poem out. This one I wrote with the help of ChatGPT. So I'm just going to read it out, but I might have to sort of faff about putting my glasses on because I'm getting old. That's my birthday card from Sarita. It says, perfect birthday. Right, so the poem's called Morning Bird. A bird is singing outside my pane, a cheerful song, a joyous refrain. It stirs the stillness of the dawn, an upbeat tune to greet the morn. Its notes like rays of silver light weave through the fog, the gentle night. And though my eyes still long for sleep, its melody penetrates deep. I open the window wide, even though I'm sleepy-eyed. I spot the songster on the shed and shoot the fucker dead. Now, as you can see from the fact that I use ChatGPT, I keep up to date with technology, even though I'm old. And I use the voice control for the radio on my car. And I'm not very pleased with how it makes me just behave. Because I press the button, press the screen, and it says, would you like to select a station or select a frequency? And I go, select a station. Where did that voice come from? And it says, please say the name of the FM or DAB station. BBC Radio 4. It's getting worse, isn't it? And then she goes, did you mean BBC Radio 4 Extra? No. Please say the name of the FM or DAB radio station. So I goes, BBC Radio 4. And she goes, did you mean BBC Radio 4 Extra? No, I fucking didn't! I'm sorry, I don't understand. Please say the name of the FM or DAB station. BBC Radio bloody 4. Boom Radio. You've been great. I'm going home and I'm going to listen to Boom Radio on the way home. Thank you very much.